Sing.
It's a lot of radio language.
Already know these ladies. We and give y'all so many blessings this evening. So if you're doing something, make sure you turn up the radio.
We had no idea. We needed other places. And then we had 2 workshops. We had her house and my house. And we're like, we got to get out of the house. We had the kids running around, pets running around. Like, we have to get out of here. And there's a place called Active Space that's on in Berkeley.
7th Street or 6th Street?
I think it's 7th or 6th Street. And it just moved here from Oregon. And it was basically, what were they? They were workspaces.
Work studios.
Yeah, work studios.
Like we were.
Yeah, and so we looked it up and said, hey, let's go down there. Again, we didn't have no money. We just had a vision, like, we need a place to work.
Yeah. So how, even when you didn't have the money or the resources, that you knew that it was like, I'm going to make this work regardless?
You know what we had?
Tell me, Miss Chrissy, what did you have?
We had a mouthpiece.
Ooh, okay. You got to speak up for yourself.
Yeah, we had a mouthpiece, and we would sit and say, okay, we're going to say this.
Yeah.
We're going to say, and we would sit and like put a script together.
Yeah, almost role play
on what we were actually going to say. So we don't, and we would say, okay, we don't have any money. We say, okay, well, I have a couple $100. We're going to say, well, I have a couple hundred. Okay, look, our rent can't be any more than this.
Yeah.
You know, okay, $400 a month. That's it.
Oh, wow.
And so we went down to Active Space, and really, it was like almost in our budget.
Yeah. Yes. Manifestation.
And we're like, oh my God. And we started
to do this.
Yeah. We negotiated. We said, we need a sink. We need this. And we wanted the storefront, which was the one on the street level. And they said that a cafe was going to be that store. They said, okay, if the cafe is there, that will get business from the cafe.
Absolutely.
And we negotiated, and we went back and forth with the owners, and we got our storefront.
Yeah.
And it was 150 square feet.
Yeah, it was tiny.
It was tiny.
But mouthpiece comes from drive. I don't know anybody who's not driven that has mouthpiece.
Yeah.
Because
Well, that's true.
that's even like street finessers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're driven to something. You know, they have a goal that they're trying to reach. So I feel like that is the bigger key, because they really were driven to make something happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is definitely true. We had the drive, and we had, between the drive and then having a mouthpiece, that's what gave us the force to do that. And our goal was to get out of the house, and we really wanted to separate the two and be able to have that space. And so we got in there, and we were there for about a year. Was it about a year?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were there for about a year, and the manager of the place, because you're really supposed to be, it was for creatives. So they didn't want you to go out.
They didn't think you was a creative or something?
Let me tell you.
They don't get more creative.
Went beyond their thought of creative.
It went beyond. Like, you can kind of see, oh, you're so creative. Your artworks are so beautiful. It doesn't look like they purchased it. She came to visit our studio. And I mean, we had flowers in there. I mean, and we can create out of a little tiny space. We made it into what we had, a workspace and a showroom as well. In this little 175 square foot space. And we had flowers. We had a little flower stand. So every morning we opened up, we put our little flowers down outside. And she came in and said, oh no, this looks like a lucky florist, and this looks like a gift shop. And she this is not for retail. This is not for retail. You guys are making this stuff. It doesn't look like you made this stuff. Yeah, basically.
It's just time to evolve.
Yeah.
Time to expand the brand.
Really, kind of, because we left because we were getting so much flack from her, like every day. You know, and so it's like, okay, this is not going to be a place for us, because what we were going to tell her, we are making this stuff.
Right.
You know, we are creating this stuff. We are creatives.
But they serve their purpose.
Yes.
You know? It had a season to be there to do what y'all needed to do. And now it's on to the next step.
And guess what? On to the next.
It pushed us right on out where we needed to be.
Yeah.
As it should. And one thing that I always advocate for, especially in the financial space, is independence, right? Yes. Independence is freedom. So whenever we're dependent, of course, we are a slave to their opinions. We're a slave to their judgments, right? So independence has to happen, especially for all the entrepreneurs out there. But I want to ask this question, because it seems like fearlessness is a major, major part of your story, at least up to this point, right? So I feel like a lot of people don't start their journey, don't pursue their passion because they're afraid of what they have to sacrifice in order to get there, right? So I really like to hear from y'all. What were some of the sacrifices that y'all had to make to get to this point of your journey?
I think from looking at it in retrospect, going back, we were fearless, but in actuality, I didn't even know I was fearless. There was no doubt. There was no, well, what if? There was no fear of, what if they said no? Our conversations never even pondered there.
Mhm.
It was like, this is what we're going to do. Come on, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you think you got that from?
I think just because, like we said, we wanted to, this is what we wanted to do. And like Brittney said, we were like after the money and just trying to figure out how we were going to do it. We also had young children at the time.
Right.
And when we had left the studio, the workspace, we said, okay, we need something else. And we just, okay, we found a storefront around the corner from Brittney's house. I just happened to be driving by and there was a phone number there. I said, oh, Brittney, right next to It's All Good Bakery. I said, I'm going to call it.
It's all good. Shout out.
And we called it, and when we talked to him, because it had been abandoned basically for a long time.
Yeah.
And again, we had no money. We came up with a script. They wanted $500 a month. And guess what we said? We don't have the $500 a month. But what we can do is, if you let us, we will do all the work.
Yes.
And
We'll
I mean,
renovate this place
we
like
will
never
renovate.
before.
Yeah.
We painted, we laid floor, went down to Home
Yeah.
Depot. We learned how to lay floor.
Yeah.
We wanted it to be purple.
Wow.
Walking down the aisle. Just so happened, they said, oh, we looked and said, oh, we like this purple tile. They said, oh, you're in luck. Someone just returned it.
Wow.
And it was a custom
Custom order.
Wow.
So it was discounted on clearance because
Oh,
who wants
yes.
to buy
We haven't even
purple
got to
floors?
social
No.
media.
Oh, okay. We haven't even got to
We
something.
haven't even got to some.
Right.
We got
Oh, yeah. We got time. Keep
Yeah.
going.
And the guy said, we was like, well, how do we lay, how? He said, okay, I'm gonna show you guys. He gave us a quick tutorial. And then he said, okay, when you're all done and you want to get the grout up, you pour beer all over it, and
Yep.
beer will
Beer.
get it up. Beer. And
Beer.
sure enough, he told us how to paint, tell everything. And we bought that stuff, right? Less than $500. And we said, we will paint, we will lay floor, we'll do all the work. The only thing we asked you to do
Curtains up.
is to put a sink in for us.
Yep.
Wow.
And that was it.
Wow. And so where are we at in the timeline right now?
So right now
What
we
year
are
is
in
it?
2003.
2000. Oh, wow. So this is almost 20 years
Yeah,
ago.
2003.
Oh,
We
y'all
had-
been in the game.
yeah,
Goodness.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Goodness, great.
This
So
was
what?
no overnight success.
No,
Oh,
no.
that's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, 20 years to overnight success. That's amazing.
And
That's
from there, so we went in, we found that storefront, and we basically said, we know you want $500 a month. We cannot afford $500 a month, but what we can do is you let us in. I think it was at $200 or $300 a month. That every month will increase it by $25 until we get to your $500.
Wow.
Yeah.
Don't try this at home, because I don't think this will work today.
I mean, it probably won't. They agreed. We lived in the neighborhood. Brittney lived up the street. It's All Good Bakery is a home for Black Panthers. They believed in us, and we told them what we're trying to do, and they said okay.
Yeah.
And we were there for 3 years. Now,
Yeah.
granted, let me tell you, we didn't know nothing about nothing. We didn't have we didn't have a business plan. Barely had a business license. Knew anything about business. None of it. So
You had
everything was
ambition.
trial and error
Exactly.
there.
Yeah, you had ambition. And that's really powerful. I see, fearlessness, ambition, and also remembering that everything is for sale. Right?
Yes.
Everything is
Yeah.
for sale. People set a price, but real business owners know there's always an exchange. There's always an exchange, and that relationships
Create
are so much
value.
more important than money. Value.
Yeah,
Yeah.
create value. They're like, hey, we're gonna make this place look nice
Yes.
in exchange for
Yeah.
allowing us to use it until we're, properly funded, and then we'll pay y'all.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Power of negotiation.
Yeah.
Power of
Negotiation.
negotiation.
And it worked. I mean, it
Yeah.
worked. And we love that place. Although because we had children, let me tell you.
Were y'all
those-
working at this time too? Like, was
Yes,
that y'all
I
full
was
time?
working at UPS
Okay.
graveyard shift. I was a
Oh, man.
manager.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't say UPS.
Hold on.
So I'm
Don't
about
say
to tell
UPS.
you about
Don't say
I would-
UPS.
No,
No.
because I worked at UPS.
You worked at
And
UPS?
that's modern day slavery.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
That is modern day.
They got
I do not
benefits.
kid
Yeah,
y'all.
they had
got
benefits.
I
Yes.
will tell you, I was a loader.
Yes,
I was a loader.
And I was your manager.
And
Your supervisor.
and you know what, E-regs, right? Or did they call them E-regs where y'all was at? It was them 50-pound or 100-pound boxes that you're supposed to get people to help you lift.
Oh yes,
You-
yes.
So-
We called them something else. They weren't. We had another.
Yeah, they had. Well, we was in Richmond.
A two-person lift.
Yeah. So I remember one Christmas, my senior year, I thought I was doing something, going over to UPS, and I did it. I only last maybe like a month and a half. Yeah.
Wow.
A month and a half.
You
That
ain't
was-
seen Cat's biceps, you listen on the
Yeah,
radio.
yeah.
Right.
That's amazing.
I was like, no, this is.
He was
And
done.
I see my check too, and I had to pay union dues and
After
everything
tax,
like that.
yeah, after taxes.
I was like, no, I don't want no parts of UPS. So if you survive UPS and doing all this,
Well,
Oh, yeah.
I was a
This is only
supervisor,
divine.
so I wasn't loading
Wow.
boxes. I was actually in the HR side. So I was doing the hiring
nice.
and
Oh,
employee
nice.
relations. So I was
Okay.
trying to keep them around
Right.
with the loaders
For
and the
you
unloaders.
guys.
For you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. So how long did it take until y'all were able to quit your job? Or fire your boss, as I like to say.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
you're doing a lot of fast forwarding.
Oh,
I
we haven't
wanna-
gotten
we-
this
okay.
Yeah, we wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
Let's back up. We had
Let-
We was
2003.
still working both.
Yeah, we were working both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was working graveyard, so I was doing 11 to 7, come home a little bit, get the kids ready to go
Wow.
to school, and then open up Soothing Creations about 10, 11, 12, depending on when I got there. So I was going to say
Wow.
those that have brick and mortars, you can't just open when you want to open, but we
Wow.
did. And then I would shut down at 2:30 to go pick the kids up and then come back
Yeah.
and open up shop again. I would put a sign on the door, be back in, you know,
Be back in 10 minutes.
We
2
know,
hours.
we back in
2
an
hours.
hour.
Yeah, 2 hours later.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Business,
Gotta run
let's
an
get it.
errand.
yeah, got to run
Yeah.
an errand and come back. So we did that for a while, but of course that is not the way, to run business, but it worked for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really worked for us. Brittney would get off at 4:00 working at EB Mud, come down there, and we would be down there until about 9, sometimes 10:00 open, and people would come in, and
Wow.
we had custom made candles. This was our the way we operated. It was we had a system. It was called 1, 2, 3. Choose your fragrance, scent, and color, and we would create. We had 15 different products, and so we would customize any of those products that you wanted.
And how did your marketing work? How did people was it
You
like
really wanna know?
referrals? I don't know now.
Flyers.
On cars.
Flyers.
Yes.
Hey, get it in.
2003.
Yeah, the
There was
early
no
2000s.
I think MySpace was just coming out.
Yeah, that was before the iPhone.
Now we
Yes.
dating ourselves now.
Great story time.
We were in up and down the aisles at the parking lots.
Oh man,
Yeah,
get
We were
it
at
in.
the flea market.
At the flea market.
Yes.
Yeah, much respect. Much respect.
And then we had friends and family that would come, but that's how we got out. And we actually got a lot of business, from they said, "Oh, I saw your flyer," and I just decided to come in. And
Yeah.
So back when y'all first started and y'all was running your business, making the products, taking care of the kids, working another job, was it at any point where you're like, this is too much. I don't know if I can continue to go at this rate. Like something needs to give.
I'm really thinking. I don't
That's
remember
really?
being in
because
that
we
place.
didn't really, because
Wow.
you know
It was
why?
our outlet.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
We were working because we weren't like adhered to a time,
Yeah.
Right.
and we were on our time.
It was our freedom.
It was our freedom. So
Yeah.
we
Our
ain't open. We ain't
creation.
open.
our freedom.
We'll get there when we get there, and that's
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, oh
You
god,
didn't feel the pressure.
No
No.
ball and
Is
chain.
this the inspirational story? Because don't try this at home.
No,
Well,
No,
we're
open
just
up the
giving
store.
I mean, that's just like our honest opinion.
Right.
Yeah, this is a true
Feel
Hollywood
like
the
story.
history
No,
of
because
This is
sometimes,
good, though.
because sometimes when people hear all that, it's like, I don't know if I could
I'm
do
gonna
that.
stay at UPS.
Yeah.
But
I
it
don't know
did
if I could
come
do that.
a time that, like, we were 2 years in, and like Brittney said, we were only in it for the money. We didn't have any structure of really running a business.
Yep.
We were just trying to get the money,
Mhm.
and we didn't have any structure. So things started to come to a head
unravel.
because we didn't have the proper systems in place to run
Infrastructure.
the booth. Yeah, the infrastructure
Yeah.
on how we were actually going to do that. So about 2.5 years in, almost 3 years, that's when things started to like really kind of fall apart. Money wise,
wow.
we the money, and I was the one that was in control of the money, and the money was just not spent right. When I thought when we got money, hey, we can go do this to buy groceries and, you know, do whatever we needed to do and not put it back in the business. And so when the money is not put back in the business, what happens? The business fails. Yep. So because we had 15 different products, now all of a sudden we don't have money to buy the supplies and the raw materials to even make these products. So then when we started shaving off fragrances and things because we couldn't buy it because the money wasn't going back into the business. And so then it just gradually, then we weren't able to pay our rent that we said we were going to pay because there's no money. And we're looking at each other and Brittney, well, Krystal, and I'm like, well, Brittney. And it just started to fall. So then our level of communication and relationship started to turn bad because now everybody's in their feelings and the business is getting ready to fail because there's no money. Well, why isn't there any money?
Well, like you said, communication is key.
Yeah.
Right. And especially when you're dealing with money and it's like, hey, I thought you was paying the bills. And it's like, no, I was getting this other stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And how many partnerships go sour because of lack of communication?
Yes.
You know, and for y'all to maintain not only a business relationship, but a personal relationship through that entire time, even through the ups and downs, says a lot about y'all character. You know what I'm saying? Because the communication had to come into play at some point.
Oh yeah. Well, it went dead for a while after we dissolved the business.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
You know.
And what year was this?
That was probably 2006.
Oh
no, was it 6? Oh yeah, probably no. Yeah, 2005, 2006.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it just went, you know, the communication things were falling and it just said, hey, we can't do this. Kind of, you know, words were said, things were said, and we kind of, I'll just say for lack of better words, just parted ways.
Yeah. Yep.
You know? Yeah. And we, I remember our last conversation, what we did is we kind of like split the business, but didn't really communicate. And it was almost done kind of, now that I look back, like maliciously.
Right.
Like I would go down to the warehouse late at night. I went down to the store when she wasn't there and take what I wanted. And then in turn, she would do the same thing. We kind of split, you know, the customers that we had built a relationship and trying to call them and get their business. Yeah. And one day I called her and I said, oh, well, I need the supplies to make incense because you have them. And because I had an order to make. And she said, okay, well, you can come by and get them. But then when I got there, it was a whole different thing. Yeah. Okay. She was like, she came to the door. I remember this so vividly. She came to the door. And she said, yeah, but you know, we're really not talking. We're really not cool like that. So I'm not giving it to you.
After you got there.
After I got there. I wanted to tell her to her face.
Oh, flawless victory.
Yeah. And I said, okay. All right, that's cool. I said, all right. I said, that's all right. You know what? That's cool. I said, and I don't know exactly what the words were.
We had words back and forth.
We had words, and they weren't nice words.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I'll never forget this, and I shared this with Brittney, like after when we jumped into Soapy Faith, is that while I'm in the car, I slammed the door, and while I was in the car, God whispered, oh, you guys will be in business again.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, right. I don't like her. I ain't talking to her. Right. Now, mind you, I don't know if I told you guys, she was my sister-in-law.
Yes.
No, we didn't see. It's a lot of pieces to this puzzle.
I was married to her brother.
Oh, wow.
So when I got home, I told myself, I am not talking to your sister. We are done. Don't ask me to go to no family events. Don't ask me to do nothing. I'm done. I'm good.
Oh, you were done.
Done. You and the kids can go. I ain't going.
Right.
I'm chilling at the house.
Business no more. It's personal. It's personal. Okay. So,
you're listening to KGPC 96.9 Oakland and streaming online at www.kgpc969.org. And this is the Anything Can Happen show with Kenya Asa, Quezzy Dreams, and your man Cat Fitness. Welcome back, y'all.
Welcome back. So, we've been having an incredible show talking to the beautiful ladies of Soapy Faith. If you haven't heard, then stay tuned because you're about to hear a whole lot more. So basically where we left off is the disintegration The original.
Right.
Yes,
That's
right.
right.
Soapy Faith won.
Soapy Faith won. They had to get ready to drop it in the back alley. Somebody else can pick it up. But this is back in, so we're saying 2006. Like chronologically, we're around 2006, right?
Yes.
And well, let me ask this. Y'all had some words, like a Tyler Perry movie. Y'all had some words.
Yes.
You had a very verbally violent exchange.
Yes.
And after that, what happened next? What brought y'all back together?
Well, I was gonna say that we fast forwarding too much.
Oh, for
Did
real?
y'all do anything individually?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
did y'all?
Yeah.
The Avengers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
was gonna say life happened.
Yeah.
You know, that's what happened. And we separated, we did our own thing. I had kept Soothing Creations and Brittney did Soothing You.
Soothing.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, what do you think that you learned through that process of kind of breaking up the band and having to do y'all single albums? Like,
Right, you know what? That's what it was.
That's
we broke up
exactly
the
what it
band
was.
and we all went individual.
yeah.
Yeah.
What did you learn through that individual process with your own projects and what you had to invest in doing to that?
I can honestly say it felt different. And I can honestly say it wasn't the same. It wasn't more of a positive experience for me. It felt like I was labored to work.
Yeah.
I was still with EB Mud, but I started feeling like these customers are getting on my nerves.
Yeah.
You know, it was like they wanted too much. They do this fragrance, this color, this, because I tried to keep the same concept of Soothing Creations together.
So the boundaries were set right there with
It just
like everybody's like, oh, do you have a vanilla? You like, no, but I can make one.
right. And I was hustling to get that dollar, and I was like,
Yeah.
I don't like this.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah,
it's not fun.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
I don't care about the money. It's not fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about you over there, Miss Chris?
So for me, I tried to keep, Soothing Creations going, and I hired this lady to create a whole new logo, and I was trying to get a website done and really trying to do it. And I was just like, I was like, it just didn't work because I really didn't have like I guess I needed that extra like push or that partnership because we feed off of each other.
Right.
And so that just wasn't there. And then I also kind of felt like I was in some way, like I was still in my feelings, like I can do this without her type thing.
Pride.
And I was just like, and I wasted all this money trying to do it. And I was like, well, how am I going to do this? And so I felt like, okay, I was just too much in my feelings and really trying to go out there and say, oh, I can do this without her. I don't need her. But it really wasn't like, I don't need her, but that was just like my pride saying that. So that was like short-lived. I did a few little vendor shows, and little things at work when they had little, holiday vendor shows that they would invite the employees to do. And then that just kind of slowly, fizzled out, during that time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is where we at now.
So now we're probably in between. I would say it was a good, me trying to keep Soothing Creations probably only lasted maybe a few years after. So we're probably into 2008, maybe 2008, 2009.
Before or after the recession?
When was the reception?
The recession. So that was like 2008, 2009.
Yeah, so it was around that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was around that time.
And so what brought y'all back together? So the individual albums flopped, right? And what brought y'all back together?
Yeah. So like I said, during that time, we experienced life. Like I mentioned, I was married to Brittney's brother, and Brittney had her own relationship, and we all had our, family situations that were going on. So I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2011.
Oh, wow.
And during that time, Brittney and I didn't really talk. The family functions, Thanksgiving, birthdays and stuff.
So
like
y'all were
that.
still around each other, but just not interacting.
No, not really, because I didn't come around.
Oh, wow.
And if I did, I'd like, hey, and then I would, and everyone in the family knew. They was like, oh God, it wasn't like arguments or anything that happened. It was just silence.
Yeah.
And what
It was this unspoken tension.
Just because of the business?
Yeah.
Yeah. We just continue to let it fester.
It festered.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah,
Okay.
it festered.
Okay. So that's a real powerful energy. So this is in 2000.
It is. Over a business.
Yeah.
But
You can like, wow, but women can hold a grudge
It is so
forever.
emotional.
And it was like, and to this day, I mean, really, was it worth it? Was it really worth to hold on to this long?
Because that's like 4 years, right? 4 or 5 years.
That's I mean,
but longer than that.
The story,
Okay.
Yeah,
It went on. I mean,
Yeah.
even when I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2011, we still didn't even really talk that much until we got into 2015.
Right.
Oh,
And this
wow.
was
So
all
like
over
a
balloons and flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gotta be deeper.
And you have to remember that when you're married and working, you know,
you
you
just got
begin
caught
to-
up. Yeah, you get caught up in
the
life.
years fly by and you're like, oh yeah, I don't talk to her anymore. I'm not around. And that
Wow.
becomes the standard.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And you just behave in that way. And you never think about what is all this? Let me let this go.
What's the root of it?
Right.
Yeah.
You're just
Yeah,
busy living.
Yeah.
And let me ask you, before we get to the actual resolution, I mean, if you could go back in time, right? Because we're talking about, it seemed like a 10-year period. Y'all were just not speaking to each other. If you could go back to yourself on that day when the disintegration first happened, is there anything you would have done differently? Of course, hindsight is 2020, but like honestly speaking, looking at where you're at now, is there anything you would have done differently at that time?
Well, yes, because number one, going into business, we did not have a plan. We didn't know what we were doing. We just had this passion to make money, nor did we have a vision of like what are we doing? What are we trying to accomplish here?
Right.
And so that would be number one. And then number two would just be, our communication.
Yeah.
Being able to say, hey, what's going on? I don't know if that would be the exact words, but because the majority of the reason why we dissolved the business was finances.
Yeah,
and to be
communication being key.
Yeah, that and then
But
knowing,
you know what's so funny? That's the breakup of a lot of just relationships, period.
Yeah.
Whether business or not. It's
Yep.
finances and lack of communication.
Yeah, over 50%.
Yeah.
and also I think being on the same page, like we know what we're trying to do, and in order to do that, we have to do X, Y, and Z. Like you have to put that money back in the business. You can't we do a vendor show and say we had good vendor shows. We'd come out $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, or it was a good one, and then we'd have some where we only made $300 or $400. Well, you can't take that and split. Well, you take 200, I take 200, and we go our way. You have to put that back in the business, And so that was one of the things that we learned. So then when we came into Soapy Faith, that was the number one thing. That was just
That
like
was
so
put on the table
pressed,
from the
put
beginning.
on the table. We cannot
We're not
repeat
doing this
any
the
of
same
those
way.
issues, any of those things that we encountered when we had Soothing Creation.
You came to a realization what made that initial relationship toxic. Like it just sounds like once you got to that second half of your journey, y'all reflecting, it was like, okay, we got to put some boundaries. We need to know, like you were saying, exactly where this relationship is going. What are we building here together? You're not just chasing money anymore.
Yeah.
When was that? What was the common interest once you realized money wasn't the ultimate objective, like with this business?
Well, I want to say this before she answers this. I think a lot of that time spent solo, for lack of better words, we did a lot of finding on our own who we were. It was a lot of personal growth that took place in the midst of that. And so by the time Soapy Faith was born, I think God had prepared us. And so we took all those experiences and was able to apply it. But it started, I think, with us and our maturity and our value in growing and finding out who we were as women.
And when did that happen? Because right now, so Chris, you were diagnosed with breast cancer in 2011. You guys were talking about that?
Yeah.
What was that? Well, how did you find out, and what happened?
Oh, okay. So with that, and this is what I always say, that I'm very in tune with my body and really knowing, what's going on. So that's really very important, especially for women, and men too, to notice, something that's different. It's funny now I can think about it, but my ex-husband at the time, he's the one that said, like, what is that? And I was like, I don't know. And I brushed it off because I was like, what are you trying to tell me something about my body? And so I kind of brushed it off. And this was in 2011. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was ripples actually on my right side. And I just kind of just dropped just brush off and says, oh, I don't know. And so, and this was in the summer of 2010, actually. And so I said, oh, I have a new doctor. And so when I get to the doctor, I'll let her know. So when I went to the doctor, and this is a very key point, she said, I told her, I said, oh, I'm feeling a lump, there's something there. And she says, oh, you just really dense. You have a lot of ripples and lumps, and that's hereditary. That's just dense. And so I said, okay.
Wrote it off.
She wrote it off.
That's the doctor.
Yeah.
I thought they did.
Yeah, she really did.
Fine.
Yeah. She was like, oh, you're fine. And I was 38 at the time. And so I said, well, the doctor didn't say anything. So she said I was fine. And I just brushed it off. This was about August of 2010. So in just November of 2010, now it's like painful to the touch, burning, I'm taking a shower. I'm like, wait a minute. This is something going on here.
So you said you first noticed in the summer of 2011. And
10.
Oh, 2010, right? And then in November of 2010, that's when you noticed the burn.
Yes. Wow. Yeah, and so I said, okay, I called her back, and I said, I'm feeling more pain. And she immediately says, okay, I'm just going to send you to go get a mammogram. She didn't even want me to come in. She said, if you're feeling that, I don't need you to come in. I need you to go get a mammogram. So I prepared myself. I knew that my job was shutting down during holiday time. I said, okay, well, I'm going to set all this up while the job is shut down so I can do all my appointments. And I went in for the mammogram in like the end of December, and they called me like January 3rd and said I had DCIS, which is the early stages of breast cancer. Okay. And they said that they caught it in time, but it was aggressive. Wow. Yeah. And so
aggressive meaning what it was like
they said, that if I didn't had I not taken care of it then, it would have spread it. And I was only 38. So, you're supposed to go for your first mammogram at 40. I wouldn't have made it. Wow. Right. Yeah. Because that's how aggressive it was. And then I had my appointments and, had to have my surgeries. It was a 4-month span between the time that I found out and then my surgery. And they were like on pins and needles that it hadn't spread, to my lymph nodes. But they called it early stage 0. Wow. But my treatment to me wasn't stage 0. No.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah. So what would you recommend to other women in terms of early detection and just being aware of what's happening in their body? Like, how could they?
Yeah, I would say number one, to pay attention, to your body. And if you almost have to advocate for yourself. Like, hey, like when I went back and said, hey, I know there's something going on. This is not normal. But I had a really good doctor because she was like, even though she brushed it off the first time, but the second time, it wasn't like, oh, come in again for another appointment. It was like, no, I'm going to send you out to a specialist. And so from there, and then back then, and they don't even do it now, because I actually just went for a mammogram. They have completely changed the way they do it. They actually brought me into another room and says, you wait right here until we read your results.
Wow. So same day results.
Same day.
Wow.
And they brought me in a room similar to this, and they had it up on the screen. It's like, yeah, you have some cloudiness, but it's early. But I didn't go home. They didn't call me. They literally told me right there, said, okay, we're going to have you come in. Everything was done like that day. Yeah. And so now it's completely different. I know with COVID and the limited, resources that they have and doctors, it's like, oh, we'll give you a call. Yeah. We'll mail you something.
It's crazy how they put so many things on the background.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when people are having real life situations, and it's like,
life or death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really, really, that's a really serious issue, right? It's especially important in this climate of COVID and these global diseases that are happening right now. And so as a Black woman, right, just knowing culturally our history with medical professionals, if you will, right? What led you to getting a doctor? Like, what led you down that path of trusting somebody with what was happening in your body?
I just knew that there was something wrong, and I wanted to really. My job offered, I didn't have, because I worked for Kaiser at the time, and I didn't have to pay for my benefits or anything. I just wanted to get, and we always used to talk about it. And I also worked in benefits, right? So I knew everything about benefits, but yet I didn't have, to me, the proper care that I needed, because women can have 2 doctors. They can have a primary and an OB. And I wanted to be able to have both and be able to have that relationship. With them just in regards to my health. And so that's what I was doing. I was actually visiting her because she was going to be my primary and kind of interviewing her to see if this is someone that was going to work for me.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Did you have any reservations about, I guess, trusting your body and like your medical history with an actual doctor? Or was it just like, just like we get car checkups, right? Very few people, especially in our community, go to the doctor because of, I understand at least the distrust that we have for people in that industry, in that profession. But what made you different? Was it that you worked for Krystal, so you had like just immediate access, or as you said, like was it mainly I felt something was wrong and I needed to do something? Like what was it specific?
Well, I think it's when there's pain, because if there's no pain or anything that's maybe
out of sight, out of mind.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is correct. So when she brushed it off, I brushed it off because I didn't have any symptoms, right? It was just this lump that was there, but it wasn't bothering me. And then I didn't take it any further to really get a concern about it. It wasn't until, hey, this is hurting.
Yeah.
You know, and not just like a regular hurt. This is like all the time, constantly.
But you know, I find that very interesting because, you know, I work with a lot of clients and that's our motto. Like, you know, if it's not bothering me, it's not broken. You know, the doctor says you can be, you know, overweight or you can have borderline health issues, but until they say I have that health issue, I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm a borderline diabetic, you know, but they haven't called me a diabetic yet. So I'm not technically a diabetic.
Right,
you know.
exactly. So that's really kind of how I looked at it. But when the pain started coming, I'm like, I really need to go back in. I don't want to be in pain. That's not me. I don't want that. But so that's kind of where it started. And then from there, I really, you know, God put together an awesome medical team for me because, you know, all those doctors, like after I had all my treatments, they quit, they moved to they're not even around anymore. And I'm like, wow, God, you really, you know, put together an amazing team for me because those doctors are not even around anymore. You know, to do that. But it's when the pain came and when I let the doctor know, and then from there she says, okay, this is it, we're going to send you to the specialist and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And it kind of just was like clockwork. You know, from there I was thanking God that I didn't have to have radiation or chemo, but I had almost 8 surgeries in 17 months for reconstruction.
Sure.
So
okay. And did you ever at any point think like, man, I might not survive through?
No, and no, because my prayer life, I didn't have one. I'm not even gonna say it was minimal. I didn't have a prayer life at all. Okay. I didn't even pray. No, I was like, well, if this is what God wants. If he wants me to have cancer, then so be it. Or I don't know.
If I die, I die.
And I think I look back on that and I really think I was scared to even ask God because I never went to him before. And now all of a sudden I'm going to you because my life could be potentially on the line. I could die. My kids could be without their mom. And I think I was scared, you know, to really pray and say, oh my God, you know, and so my thing was that, well, if this is what God wants, and that's just kind of how I left it. I never prayed even through surgery, and I almost died during my surgery.
Yes.
Yeah. I was in I think total like 17 hours, and a blood vessel or something happened when they were trying to do the reconstruction. I had to go back. I was in surgery, I think, for like 8 hours, and then I came out of it, and it's like, you got to go back in, like right now. And I didn't know really kind of what was going on, but Brittney told me that my husband at the time was like, I don't know if Chris is gonna make it.
Wow.
It was, but I didn't know all of that.
So that's when the relationship came back together, when she was going through these surgeries, Brittney. Like he was going to support.
Yeah, I was there. I remember waking up, her waking up, and she was in the recovery room. One of the surgeries, I can't remember which one it was, and she had tears coming out of her eyes, and she said, God told me it was going to be okay.
Wow.
God told me it was going to be okay. And we're looking at her and we are nervous, of course, every time she went back into the surgery. So yes, a lot of times I was there to support her and my brother.
Wow, so you still loved it.
Absolutely. But it was, and that's what I'm saying, during this time span, God was working on us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could show up. You know, I could be at a family function. We may not sit down and talk about, hey, girl, how are you? Love you, miss you. but God was doing what he needed to do. And I remember that so vividly. We're waiting for him. We're to keep looking at the doctors and the nurses, like you said, her anesthesia should be wearing off. Why isn't she waking up? Yeah. And finally, when she does, she has tears in her eyes saying, God said everything was going to be okay. I was going to be okay.
Yeah. That's extremely powerful.
Yeah.
So what year is this?
So we are in 2011, 2012. Mm-hmm. Maybe in touch of 2013 is when I had like all of my final surgeries.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So the treatment was for about 2 years.
Yeah, because it was just a lot of reconstruction. Yeah,
wow.
A lot of reconstruction, and just you have to wait a while. I did have some lymph nodes removed, and this was on the right side just to make sure that it did not go into my bloodstream. And then from there, it was mental.
Yeah,
it was straight mental, because it's like, even though you didn't have to go through, and many women, I've even have a cousin that had to go through all of the radiation and all of the chemo, but it takes I think a mental toll, because then you have to figure out, how am I going to get back, into, just my day-to-day life, and what does that look like going forward, and on top of that, my marriage itself was not good. So it was
during this period.
The whole
it was prior and during,
and we had good spans of it. Yeah. And still during that time, I still did not have a good prayer life. It was almost like that. I can look back. I didn't really want to let God in, because I really wasn't ready to release me.
Oh wow.
You're still hanging on to your old self.
Exactly. So I was like being rebellious, even though I went through my major, surgeries and could have potentially died. You would think that someone would be like on their hands and knees and praying. And I still just kind of wanted to live my life the way I wanted to live it, to make the decisions that I wanted to make. And I'm not letting God in. I'm not letting him come in.
What's so interesting about that? Because in 2014, when I had my health scare, right, when I felt like I was having a heart attack that night, that was the moment I let God in. That very moment, realizing that I wanted to be here for my kids. I wanted to be here for my wife. Everything that, I was doing, I could let go. And that was, I didn't know what it was turning into at that moment, but I knew I needed to be here. And it was like the very second when I felt like I was about to lose everything, you tell God, I'll do anything to live, And just hearing that come from you, it's like, sometimes we just have to let go of our old selves, because it's so much more that we're here to do, and what we need to serve, how we need to serve others. Just hearing your testimony is so powerful of what you went through and how that can affect somebody else's life, whether you know it or not.
Right. But at that moment, so we're talking about between the years of 2011 to almost 2015, I was still just living Krystal and doing my own thing.
And I think a lot of unforgiveness and pain was wrapped up into that.
It was, I still didn't really kind of want to let it go. It wasn't until 2015 when I said, okay, God, this is it. I'm like, my marriage was up and down. There was a lot of, financial communications, a lot of infidelity. And I said, listen, God, this is it. I know, and I tell everybody, my word to him was, I know there's more. I'm like, I know you didn't, have me survive breast cancer and surgeries and all this to continue to still experience, the hurt and the pain. And I said,
it's okay.
It's okay.
Take your time.
But I said, there has to be more, God. There has to be, like, I know you have something more for me. And he said, I do. Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Yeah. In that moment, I said, yeah. And he literally, and I can't express that to anyone, when God shows up, it's like you're nervous, you're scared, because the words that I heard were different from what I planned. He told me to leave. Like, you got to go. And I'm like, what? I got a husband. I got 2 kids. This is June of 2015. He said, you gotta go. And I'm like, go. I'm like, I need a sign. I need a signal because I didn't want to make any,
It's so interesting. It's so interesting when we have those signs, and then we want more.
Are you sure?
That was a weird day.
Yeah. And I was like, nah, I don't really know. He says, okay, I'm gonna give you one. You want one? I'm gonna give you one. And boy, did he give me one. He said, go. My husband had a bag that he had an old phone in, and he got a new phone. He kept the old phone. He said, go ahead and go get that phone out that bag. Don't get the phone. Because I'm like, I'm get the phone. Frantic. I need an answer because I need to really make sure I'm making the right decision. You tell me to leave. He said, go ahead and turn the phone on. I turned the phone on, and I kid you not, that phone lit up like a Christmas tree. And he said, I need you to keep scrolling, and I need you to keep scrolling, and I need you to keep scrolling. Scrolled on into January 1st of 2015, and I saw this woman's name in there, and then I scrolled back down, and I kept seeing her name. He says, you see there? Yep. And that's all my heart like jumped out. Yeah. And then he said, do you need another? I said, nope. That's it. Wow. That's it. Yeah. And from then on, it was like I was literally in God's hand. I'm listening to everything he's telling me to do. I mean, everything. Like, okay, you got to pack up all your stuff. My sister was here, and she's looking at me like I am crazy. What are you doing? I said, grab up all the shoes, grab up all my clothes, grab up all this, and you got to go. I called him and says, hey, you coming home? He says, no. I said, okay. And I went and slept on my mother's futon that lived in a senior housing.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. And so at this point, are you fully recovered from the breast cancer? Are you
physically, yes.
Yes.
Mentally, still just trying to figure it out. Yeah. Because I went through a battle of depression. So I went through suicide attempts and, was on a suicide watch and chained to the bed. So it was a lot of mental stuff.
Because of the divorce, because of
the separation, our relationship not going on, just trying to figure out, where you fit in life. Yeah. When you're going through, I think came out of a surgery and found out my husband was talking to some woman. Like that didn't make me feel good. Right. So when you constantly keep going through, and I have to always say this, I played a part in that too. So, and I never forget, he always said, well, do you tell people what you did? And I said, yeah, I do. Because I don't want to always just throw it off on it takes two.
Yeah, accountability.
It's accountability. And I always say the reel of life that God played this reel back, and he would bring certain vivid points in my life and say, you see there? Do you see what you did in that situation? Do you see what you did in all these situations that he brought up? I'm just like, oh my God, I see where I was a part of the problem. And I remember God's voice back then, but do you think I was listening? No. I'm like, I'm not cooking you no dinner. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. I'm not having sex with you or doing this and you out here with somebody else. I'm not doing none of it. And God was like, that right there, you should have brought that problem to me and let me deal with it. Instead of you dealing with it. Because when we deal with things, we break it, we tear it up, we do the ultimate destruction. Yes, that's what we do. Blow stuff up. And he would always say every action causes a reaction. So when you do something, you're gonna do something. When he do something, you're gonna do something. And the whole entire time I had built up all this anger and this unforgiveness. And it wasn't until 2015 that God told me why I had developed breast cancer. Was because of the bitterness and the unforgiveness. Yeah. And it festered for probably 15 years. Right. Wow. And he told me, and that was like my mission there. Like, you have to tell people they have to forgive. Not like, and it's not forgiving for them to give them a pass, but it's for you. And I mean, people hear that, the cliche of that, but it's really true. Yeah. Because that's not how God made us, to be able to hold on to things, because it festers and creates illness. We make ourselves sick. The diabetes, the heart attacks, the high blood pressure, the cholesterol. That number one is self-inflicted on ourselves based on us not releasing and holding it on. And so that it took that long for him to tell me what it was, because I didn't have any history of breast cancer. I took all the tests, all the genetic tests and everything, and they just told me, oh yeah, it's a fluke, it's environmental. That's what their reasoning was. Don't eat soy, don't eat red meat. But when it came down to the bottom of it, it was the unforgiveness.
Yeah.
And the bitterness, because early in our marriage, we got married in 2000. We got married in 1997, and shortly after, the infidelity started. So it just progressed and progressed and progressed and progressed.
Yeah.
And so I was like,
never dealt with.
Yeah, never.
Yeah.
Okay.
Never dealt with.
And
so I was gonna say we're gonna take that to the end of episode 1.
Oh my goodness.
That's it. We're gonna get into the Soapy Faith story.
Yeah.
So man,
that'll lead you up to it. That's the breast of it.
Yeah. So you're listening to KGBC 96.9 Oakland and streaming online at www.kgbc.org. And this is the end of episode 1 with Soapy Faith.
Wow.
And we're going to be going into episode 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Stay tuned. You're listening to KGBC FM Oakland and streaming online at www.kgbc.org. And this is the Anything Can Happen show with Kenya Asa, Kwesi Dreams, and your man Cat Fitness. This is episode 2 of Soapy Faith. If y'all haven't listened to episode 1 yet, go back online and stream episode 1 to get caught up. But this is an amazing story. We're going to tell you how Soapy Faith became Soapy Faith.
Yes. And we've had an incredible conversation so far, again, with the lovely ladies from Soapy Faith. We have Michelle, we have Krystal, and we have Brittney here from Soapy Faith. And we've been having a conversation about entrepreneurship, about being fearless, about trials and tribulations, about building a family business, about relationships, about everything.
About life.
Anything can happen. About life. That's the best way to sum it up. But if you didn't listen to episode 1, go back and check it out. You can find it at ach.show on Instagram as well as kgpc.org. But up to this point, where we ended episode 1 was talking about, well, I should say, a powerful story from Krystal about her own trials and tribulations in her personal life, talking about her divorce and some of the things that led up to that moment, talking about breast cancer and healing from it, and honestly just overcoming. And that's what we've gotten so far in this story. And chronologically, we are still in 2015.
Yeah, so this is now that we've given you a journey all the way from 2003 down to 2015. This is when Soapy Faith starts.
That's beautiful.
So during that time, I left and was still in a, just pressed. I didn't know what to do. Here I am going to now be a single mom with 2 teenage kids.
Wow.
And just really trying to figure out what's next.
Yeah.
And that's where the prayer, that's when I said, okay. Well, I said, okay, when I saw the cell phone, but okay, God, you in control now. This is what you want me to do.
Yeah.
What is it? And so what happened is I turned toward anything that was positive because I needed all the motivation that I could get. So I started with TD Jakes was just like my online spiritual guide.
Yeah, shout out.
My father, he was everybody. And I mean, I listened literally to about 1,000 sermons, but I had his old ones back from 2001, 2003, 2014 are really powerful classics.
Yes.
And I mean, I just listened to him and he, I realized, like Brittney had touched on about how we worked individually, how God really worked on us. And during that time, I understood what the living word meant. Because even though I'm in 2015 and I'm listening to a sermon that was preached in 2009, it still was relevant to 2015. So it's like it was the living word. So I understood that. I'm like, wow, this is what he's saying.
Right on time.
Right on time.
Right on time.
And I started listening to him and Joyce Myers and Tony Robbins and Ayanna Van Zandt and Lisa Nichols and and Les Brown. Les Brown, he lived in my living room. He lived on my phone. And so those were what brought me back and I mean, I was working at college at the time and I had a sticky note and every time I heard a phrase or something, I had about 100 on my computer. you know, you can do this. Whatever it was that was motivating me and that was positive, I wrote it on my computer. So that's how I had to, you know, start my day. And it was just like, man, if you brought any negative vibe to me, I was like, I can't even be around you because you got way too much negativity going on over there. And they used to get tired of me saying that because I was like really blunt with it, like, I can't be around you. You know, and so everything had to be positive. And so when I started writing these quotes down and just motivational words and just anything, it like resonated in me. And it's so funny because God had already, like, I don't know, God is just amazing. When I really think about it, it's just like, you can't even, like, I can't even make this stuff up. Right. So let me just go back just a little bit. So my job every year would have a holiday craft fair. Now, mind you, this holiday craft, we're in 2015. This holiday craft fair was December of 2014. So I was like, oh, I should do it. And so I was like, what? And my daughter was like, yeah, Mom, let's do it. So she helped me. I started making the candles again. I started making some of the soap, just on a little small scale. So had that craft fair, right? And people was like, oh my God, Krystal, I didn't know you made that. I was like, oh yeah, you know, back in the day, my sister
back in the day.
Yeah, it was back in the day. You know, I used to make this, and you know, I just decided to do it again for the show, but not really knowing what it was leading up to. So I was just like getting my feet wet. And I hadn't made a candle in like 10 years. But I didn't forget.
Like tying your shoes.
Yep. Yeah. I didn't forget. And so every now and then they say, oh, Krystal, when you going to make some more candles? I want to buy some candles or whatever. And I was like, you know, I didn't really want to be a business. I didn't want to turn it into a business. And so when my husband and I were going through separation and divorce, I was like, I really don't want to do anything now. And so when I moved out, which was in June of 2015, I didn't know what you want to put these in? I'm just going to be honest.
Okay. She said she already, I love the honesty.
All right.
Give us some honesty. There we go.
We got one of our co-hosts able to chime in now, Miss Kenya Asa. So
technology.
Yeah.
We popping now.
Oh, good. Okay.
She said, oh, good. Let's go.
So I'll finish this last little story.
Please.
So while I was going through the separation and all that, and I had already did that craft fair, and I started listening to all my, you know, positive podcasts and videos. I was a YouTube member. And one of my coworkers, I went to the bathroom and came back, and I had to pass her desk. And she said, Krystal, that soap. I want to buy some. When are you going to make some more? And I was like, girl, I get myself together. I'm, you know, my husband and I are going through separation, divorce.
And what year is this?
It's 2015.
Okay.
Yeah, this is 2015. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to get myself together. And when I think now, because so many people have said that, even my sister here said, when I get myself together, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean when I get myself together? Who's going to get you together? So after I came back and I sat down, and God said, you're going to make soap.
Wow.
And I was like, make soap.
Make soap.
Because my coworker kept hounding me. Krystal, you're going to make soap.
God speaking through it.
When yes. And wait a minute. Let me tell you the caveat to that. She didn't believe in God.
Your coworker?
No.
God believed in her.
God will use whoever he needs to.
Yeah.
That is correct. And he used her to nudge me.
Yeah.
To even make that step. So when I sat down, he gave me the vision in literally 30 seconds. He gave me the name, which was Soapy Faith. He gave me the color, which was this purple. He said, oh yeah, and the font's going to be like this chalky font.
It's a nice logo.
And he said, you're going to put positive quotes in the soap. I was like, and I got a little nervous because I'm looking around like there is nobody here talking to me and telling me this.
But it came through clear as day.
It came clear as day. And I can tell you, I never in my entire life had experienced that. And I got nervous. And it was so funny because while he was telling me this, I was listening to a sermon by T.D. Jakes talking about I think it was your partner. It was called partnership and how to choose your partner and who needs to be your partner. So I got nervous And I went outside and I was like kind of hyperventilating a little bit because he's telling me all this stuff so fast and I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what to do with this information.
All that
I'm trying to absorb it and figure it out. And as I'm doing, he says, "Oh yeah, your partner's going to be Brittney." I was like, Brittney.
We get in the band back together.
What Brittney?
We got to get the band back together.
Not Brittney. Any other Brittney.
Yeah, right? And I was like, "But we don't talk." He's like, "No,
well, about to.
She's gonna," and he told me why. He said, "This is why she's gonna be your partner. Number one, you're quiet. You really don't have a lot of friends. You keep to yourself."
We can't tell by this episode.
Get out of my head, bro.
You're creative, but you need help. Like you can't. This is something you can't do by yourself. And he also said, "But you know who Brittney is. She is your not to be ex-husband's sister. Mm-hmm. You know she's loud. You know she talks a lot. You know that she has energy. Mm-hmm. You know that she can get the word out. You know that she knows a lot of people. You know that you guys work good together because she's going to help you on the other side of the business and creativity. So yeah, she's going to be your partner." Mm-hmm. And I'll have to let her tell her part, but that's how he did it. Wow. Just like that. So I'm like, all right.
I see. I see Kenya Asa ready to give a question, y'all.
Kenya, talk to the people.
Hey Kenya. Hey Kenya.
Dang. Right. Mm-hmm. Our family.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and like you said, Kenya, it really is a miracle because it's bigger than us at this point, and that's why God said you can't do this alone. And so basically he said the people they need this, and you're going to do it with this soap. And I didn't really understand it then and until I began to dive deeper. But at that moment, I did call Brittney and tell her, I said, God said, you're going to be my partner.
And then, so this was your first conversation in how long?
Well, it's probably
like conversation, not like seeing.
Well, she called me and told me that she was leaving. So
leaving your brother?
Yes.
Oh man.
And so
sticky grounds right here.
Yeah.
I got somebody who wants to be my business partner, but yet and still I got my brother over here that I have to support at the same time as well.
Did you have to support him? That's my question. Like after knowing the scope of the situation. So I'm like, where did that come from? Oh, that's Kitty.
Right. So when she called and said she was leaving, I was all ears. I didn't take defense as, you're tripping or, what's going on? Do you really have to leave? The words and how she said it, I already knew in my heart.
Yeah.
Something big. And I could feel her pain. I could hear her pain. So it was never questioning about a side or what. I just knew I needed to be there for her.
That's powerful.
And this growth that I've been talking about for all this time, that obviously he was doing a work in me, because when she did call and say she was leaving, I'm like, okay, are you okay? What's the plan? And she was calling me, letting me know, I got to see God and I need this positivity and I got to stay on course and God, he has to have something better for me. And I just was supporting that and praying for her and for her peace and to figure out what she was going to do, because it was a lot of pain, you know, and I resonated with that pain. I was going through a divorce and so many similarities, you know, so that I'm thankful for.
That's powerful. So she called you, and then what happened next?
We went out to a place called the 4040 Lounge, and we sat there, and she started telling me about what God had downloaded. And I was like, oh, that sounds so exciting.
Wow. She had you fired up.
Yes.
Fired up. You like,
and I went home and I was
that.
praying like, God, can you give me something? I want something like that. And she was like, yeah, he said that the font would be this. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Wow. And so when she called and said, God said, you're my partner, I was like, yes!
Really? So even after what happened back in 2005, it was still excitement over repartnering.
Yes, because the process of growth allowed me to forgive.
Mm-hmm. That's powerful.
So I was able to
say that one more time. Yeah. You gotta say that one more time for the viewers. They gotta.
That time that I had alone, God helped me and put in me the spirit of forgiveness.
That's big.
Not even knowing that this calling on my life, I would have to answer. He prepared me without me knowing, but I was willing to change.
Okay.
I was willing to grow.
Okay, fantastic. So y'all might not notice if you listening on the radio or even watching us live, but we got another guest in the studio. We got another guest, and I feel like she's about to come in now.
She is. Yeah, her story is. So when God told me that Brittney was my partner, that was it. So when we got together, you know, we, like you said, Kat, our energy, like when we come in, it's like hype, just, and
y'all feed off of each other.
Exactly. Yeah. So God had already prepared us way back in 2003. Yeah. So when we got back in business, our same vendors, our same business connections that we had, we didn't have to look for them anymore because we had already had all the information, all of our recipes, all of everything was still there. And I even still kept it. You know, I still kept our business binder and all of our vendors and all of our contacts. It was just a matter of going back online, getting back in it and, you know, reordering. But I knew that this go around, we did not want to repeat, you know, those same things. Yes. So at this point, I'm kind of like just out there like a vessel. So God really gave me the instructions on what to do. So I didn't have a whole lot of money, and Brittney didn't have a whole lot of money. So people that say they don't have money to start a business, that's not true. That's not true. We said, I got $100. Mm-hmm. She had $100. Yep. We had $200 to order supplies, and that's exactly what we did.
Yeah. But y'all made it happen before too, with $200.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You knew how far you could stretch that.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, we only have $200. Dang, we gotta wait until we get X, Y, and Z. He was like, no,
start where you are.
Yeah, we know how to make this work.
Yes.
We made it work before. We about to
take
this $200 and turn it into $1,000.
Exactly. So we did that. We sat down and we had our list of fragrances that we had used in the past, and we really liked them. And the ones that were really, really popular, we just started with, okay, we ordered samples. So at the time from our vendor, you could get a sample for $2. And so we said, okay, we're going to do samples of everything. And then we're going to make up sample bars. And we didn't change anything. We actually did the same thing we did back in 2003. We just
started with 3.
Yeah, we just started with 3 because God said you're going to start with soap. And he said, you're only going to do soap, and you're only going to do these 3 because when you're in business, everybody just wants to do everything. And you have to perfect one before you can get to the next. And the other piece was, it's a need. When you're doing a business, you should really see what you're actually doing it for. And is it
who's your audience?
And who's your audience? And if it's not a major essential need, how can you make it be? And so because we were doing soap, we knew that soap was a need, you know? And so it was also the part of the ingredients to have a clean, fresh, you know, product that didn't have all the detergents and the sulfates in it as well. And so we just started out with those 3 products. We took that $200, we bought it and made all this soap. We had all this soap piled up almost to the ceiling. We're like, wow. Michelle, look what we made. Look, we made all this soap. And that's when she looked and she was like, do you have an Instagram?
What's that?
how are you going to sell this? And we never thought about it.
Oh, wow.
God never told me how,
Wow.
but he knew.
Wow. So,
And we always say he had to lure my sister in.
right.
And
Right,
that's
right,
how
right.
he lured her in. And then Michelle, you just take it away.
Yeah. And so, okay. How did Michelle, like, why Michelle? Right? Like, why did you need to lure her in?
So why did he need to lure her in?
Yeah.
Because number one, well, I'll let her tell her part, but she's not easily influenced. So and God didn't tell me at that moment that she was going to be my partner. He had to do something to get her. She actually really invited herself in. When she saw
I'm
us
gonna be a part of this greatness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Y'all ain't gonna leave me behind.
And her thing was when she saw us with all this soap, she was like, "And how are you gonna sell it?"
Wow.
But before that, she thought we were crazy.
Yeah.
A lot of the family thought we were crazy. Even our kids, like you guys back in business together.
Yeah.
A recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
You guys already been there, done that. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Are you crazy?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So in 2015, I had actually just moved back to the Bay from Georgia.
Georgia. Shout out to Georgia.
So I went to college in Alabama. Shout out to Tuskegee.
Hey, Tuskegee University.
Yeah, from Tuskegee HBCU. So in 2015, I relocated here from a job. I was actually in manufacturing before I came back to the Bay. I lived in a small town in Georgia, South Georgia.
Wow.
And I took a job in procurement. So I was over all of our local procurement and Asian-based sourcing for a commercial refrigeration company.
Yeah.
And so I got my degree in sales and marketing. Did a bunch of interviews. I went on a million different interviews after I graduated college. But I was so broke after I graduated, and I just was hungry and driven, and I wanted to learn and put my degree to work. So before I even got callbacks from the other companies, my passion has always been customers, always been talking, always been marketing, selling. Like I've always had a passion for that. And before I even waited for the jobs to call back, I was back home, and I was like, oh my God, I was in my mom's apartment. And I was back home, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm ready to get out of here. Like, I just wanted to start my life. I was like, I'm broke. And so I got a call back from a position, but it was for a commercial refrigeration company. And it wasn't for selling, which was what I wanted to do. I wanted to go into sales. It was for buying. And it was in a manufacturing company, and it was in a small town in South Georgia. I was trying to get to all the different major cities. I was trying to get to Houston, Atlanta, LA, somewhere like, because I went
one
to
of the
see
bigger
a small
markets.
town, right? And I'm from the city. So I'm like, okay, I graduated. I just came out of the country. It was cool. I'm back home. Like now I'm trying to go to a bigger city where I can really do my thing. And they were like, well, it's in Georgia, but it's in South Georgia. And they're like, but they're going to pay you. They're going to relocate you. Normally, they require like 6 years of experience in manufacturing, 6 years of experience in procurement.
Wow.
But they loved you, and so they want to hire you. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is like a real grown people job. So I'm like, okay, they're like, yeah, they're gonna pay for you to move out here. I'm like, okay, well, I'm all the way in California. So they moved me to Georgia, and I pretty much just stepped out on faith and moved all the way out there and took a job in basically manufacturing. So little old me, I was like, okay, I don't know anything about manufacturing. Like it was this huge manufacturing plant. They're like, okay, you're going to be buying steel. You're going to be buying, all these motors and all these huge parts. And I'm like, okay, first of all, I have to figure out how does a commercial refrigerator work. So we're talking about like restaurant refrigerators and climate control systems. So I spent the first probably like 3 months like on the manufacturing floor. So I would be in shipping, receiving, talking to everybody, trying to figure out how all the machines work, learning all the parts. And then from there, I just learned the business. I learned about forecasting. I learned about supply chain. I learned about logistics, how to fill up 40-foot containers all the way from Shanghai and Guangdong, China, and how to get it to Georgia and how to get it back from the port in LA back to, the middle of Georgia. And so I learned that business. And it was amazing. Like, I had, even though it was a small town, like I had so much fun. I was like going every weekend in Florida, Atlanta, everywhere. And I just was learning like as much as I could. And so I ended up getting promoted to actually be over all of our Asian-based sourcing. I probably was over like $10-20 million in procurement a year. So it was like a huge job and responsibility for me. But it got to be extremely stressful because I don't know if you guys know what's going on now. There's a bunch of port issues.
Yeah.
And so
everything's stuck in the port.
Exactly.
Nothing's getting released.
And so something similar, it wasn't a pandemic, but something similar. I don't know if you guys remember some years ago where there was port issues in LA again. And so that was like very stressful because on the procurement side, anyone who's in buying or procurement or anyone who even has a small business that buys from international markets, it can be extremely stressful, when you're going out of stock. And I was managing like the full supply chain of like a multi-million-dollar Fortune 500 company. And I'm literally like right out of college. So I'm like, whoa, this is stressful. I'm like, I would rather, and I noticed that on the sales side, they would just sell everything.
Yeah. And
then I'm on the other side stressed out.
Operations.
Like, I'm on the other side stressed out about how to get it in the door. So I'm like, you know what? And the way I was able to succeed at the job so well was really like relationships. So I built really, really strong relationships with my suppliers. So I was able to, get things in the door and make sure that our business, was able to not be out of stock and stuff like that. So what I learned was like, what do I really like about this role? The biggest thing that I liked was like building relationships. Like I have relationships all the way from global VPs to, people on the floor, to our shippers, to our receivers. I've always been able to talk to people from, whether they're from deep in the country to the boardroom. So I'm like, I want to get back to what I really love to do, which is building relationships with people. So I'm like, okay, I need.
So you love the networking aspect of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was really good at negotiating, the mouthpiece. So I was like, I want to get back to sales, which is how I ended up back in the Bay Area. So I ended up landing a job in tech sales. And so I came back home and I actually took a step back because I was in a senior level position, but I wanted to get back into really what I wanted to do so badly that I'm like, okay, I'm willing to take a step back and just learn the business because I didn't know tech. They're like, okay, you came from some type of technical background, but it's not, tech. Right. So I took that role for a major tech company here in Silicon Valley, and I pretty much learned the business. I was in mergers and acquisitions there, so I did basically helping companies when they're merging or acquiring new companies. So I did that, got promoted, and then went in enterprise account management and tech. So basically tech sales. And that is what I was doing when I basically came back, tech sales. So when I saw them piling all this soap to the ceiling, my sisters have always been creative. They always come up with ideas. But one thing I know is that, I'm not super into signs, but they're both Geminis, so they're very moody, so I'm like, okay, you guys have this business, like, this is great. Like, so I'm like, okay, but I'm here. I just got here. I'm doing my new little career. That's cool. Let me see if I can help you guys with some social media because I'm like, okay, my sisters are a little bit older,
You just putting all their business out there.
I wasn't like that. I'm like, I know they're not all on social media. And mind you, even in 2015, like, social media was not, like, it
not
wasn't
what it is
huge.
now.
It wasn't what it is today.
It was growing, but not,
right.
It wasn't this.
But I knew that it wasn't the same way where they were going to be able to be on the corner, passing out flyers, or at the
old school way.
Right, the old school way.
Down to the shop.
Exactly. We got to get some new stuff. we got to get some new stuff going on here. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to, I like the idea. And I have a business degree, so I think about business in a different way. So my sisters they're super extremely passionate, and I'm passionate as well, but I still, since I came from sales and such a strategic background in my career, I always look at stuff like from the true business side. Like if someone brings me a business idea, I'm always going to play like the devil advocate. Like I love the passion. Okay, but let's see if this is really a real like business. Because I always think of business from that aspect. So I'm like, okay, let's start a social media page. Let's really try to get it like a little foundation. So I started the social media, and then I'm like, okay, it's cool to have a good product, but if no one is really using it, if nobody really knows about it, like how is it really going to become a business? And then I really started studying like the market of soap. Yeah. So mind you, this is before I was really involved in the business. I'm just like, okay, that's me. I always
real quick, Miss Michelle, we're gonna take a quick break. Okay.
Yeah, this is good.
Yeah. Okay. Let's take a break. You're listening to KGPC 96.9 FM, Oakland, and streaming online at www.kgpc969.org. This is the Anything Can Happen show with Kenya Asa, Kwesi Dreams, and your man, Cat Fitness. Yes. And Miss Michelle is telling us how she became the third part of Soapy Faith.
The third leg.
Yeah.
The most important.
Come on.
So that's kind of how I look at stuff. Like I'm huge on research and really figuring out what the market that we're really in. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, let me look at soap. So even though soap is a necessity, everybody uses it every day. It's an extremely competitive market. So I'm like, okay, it's not like body butter or body oil or hair conditioner where people are willing to just try a million different types of products or have a million different types of that product in their cabinet. When you look at soap and you think about it, especially if you're talking about the Black community or the community of color, we are almost generationally married to one brand. I would say one brand. Okay. We all know who that brand is. And so we're
not giving no free promo. We're not giving no free promos on the air.
Right. We all know who that brand is, and so it's been passed down from our, normally our mothers or our grandmothers on, what we use, and especially if we have sensitive skin or we're really trying to take good care of our skin. A lot of people are like, okay, I already have a soap that I'm using, and the amazing thing about our soap is that it's 100% vegan glycerin. It is made with amazing rich glycerin and amazing rich nutrient-rich oils. But the really, really amazing thing about glycerin is that it is a humectant, similar to like honey. So basically what a humectant does is it not only protects your skin's natural moisture barrier, but it also helps your skin absorb moisture from the air. So really glycerin, even though it's an age-old ingredient, they had started in the this was like when they first started making soap. So when they first started making soap, they actually started extracting glycerin from the saponification process, which is actually the soap making process. They started stripping the glycerin out because they saw that it was a top level hydrator. So they're like, okay, we could actually use this, still maintain the solid bar soap, but take the glycerin out. And then they started making other products from the glycerin, which is where lotions and moisturizing products came from. Yeah. And it actually was almost like a money-making business, because when people would wash the soap, although it was cleansing them, it was actually stripping their natural oils from their skin. So as soon as they would get out of the bath or the shower,
like, man, I gotta put on some lotion.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm ashy.
Yeah, I have to put on some lotion. So it becomes this extreme cycle of, cleansing your
So
skin.
you saying the
washing.
cocoa butter people and the lotion and the soap people partnered up and was like, we got two businesses right here.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But the benefit of a glycerin soap is that it maintains that natural ingredient and those natural rich fatty acids that your skin actually needs to not only obtain its natural moisture, but to help it absorb moisture from the air. So this is reason why our soap is extremely, extremely beneficial for conditions like eczema, psoriasis, and extremely sensitive skin. And a lot of people don't know that they develop dry skin or sensitive skin conditions through their first step in their routine, which is cleansing. So once I learned all of this, and people were like, no, I have sensitive skin. I already know what I'm using. I'm like, okay, now is not the time to go into the soap is pretty, the soap is cute. Now is the time to go into, not only is the soap, beautiful, smells amazing, you have an inspirational message that you're able to use, when you wake up in the morning, get a good word, or go to bed. Before you go to bed, you get a little message. This is something that is actually going to help your skin's natural healing process work more effectively. So I'm like, okay, let's not worry about the entire market of people. Let's start targeting people with sensitive skin, eczema, and psoriasis.
So when y'all first created this recipe, did y'all have that in mind, or was that kind of like just like something y'all just threw in and learned more about it as you were going? Because you said you had the recipes from back in the day when you first started.
Yeah, and
we didn't know all the benefits.
We didn't know.
You didn't know? Oh, okay.
No, we were just soap
Yeah.
back then was just an added thing and they were small bars of soap because we were just adding them into our baskets, and so we knew it was a good bar.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, we weren't even using it. Not that it wasn't a good thing. We had that other company.
So just had y'all already favorite soap.
Exactly. Yeah. And so not even knowing what the benefits of something that we were making. Yeah. We were just making it. We had a treasure. We were just making it just to
Yep. And so we started figuring out what we had as we started in the very beginning of the state, in the very beginning stages of the brand when we started testing it out and getting it out to people. So what I started doing is when I started seeing some hesitancy for customers trying it, when we would go to vendor shows or when I was talking to people online, I would start educating them around the product. And so on our socials, I'm like, okay, how can I get the product out there? And this is when I started seeing a little bit about like social media, like influencing. So I started reaching out to like hundreds and hundreds of influencers, and not only influencers, but I also started reaching out to like doctors and dermatologists and people in the skincare industry, because I'm like, okay, it's cool if influencers say the soap is good, but what do big brands do? Like they say tested by dermatologists or doctors. So I started sending it out.
Get that stamp of approval.
Exactly. The doctors and dermatologists saying, hey, we have this product. Really would love you just try it out and give us your feedback. So I would always send messages out as like, hey, love what you're doing. Really make it personal. Love your content. Love whatever you have put out there. Would love to see. I think you would love our product. Would love to just get your feedback. So we started doing this. I started sending out like hundreds of messages. So I kind of did this on my own. And so my sisters didn't really know what I was doing, but I would come back and I would be like, okay, I need some soap for this person, this person, this person, this person. And to be clear, this was really before we were making like money like that.
Yes.
So she got a lot of pushback. She got
hold on. You can
wait.
Yeah, exactly. We're like, wait,
where's the add up?
Exactly.
We started arguing about this and like, wait a minute, we're making it and we're giving it away.
Yeah.
And not only that, making, but the postage and the everything, it was almost coming to thousands of dollars. Wait a minute, Michelle.
It was aggressive.
It was. You better, and you're not guaranteed that who you're sending it to is even going to open it or even like it. So it was a lot of pushback.
Right. And I was like, I came and I was working my corporate job. So I'm like, okay, I'll pay for it. Just give me the darn soap, So I was just getting the product out there. And so I would just send out messages. A lot of people would say, no, that's okay. Other people would say yes, and we would just get it out there. And people started giving us feedback around the product. People who had bought the product and people who we had sent it to. And what really, I guess, got me really believing in the brand was when people started sending messages and they started saying, oh my God, like, this soap is literally, I've had eczema, I've had, sensitive skin for years. And I've tried hundreds of different products. I've, spent money on trying to find things to help my skin and nothing has worked. And, this soap is working for me. And not only that, the message that came with it was right on time. We would have literally, this is when we had probably just less than 1,000 followers. People would DM us around, I was going through a depression and I was attempting suicide, and I opened up a bar of your soap, and the message was something that literally like saved my life. We had people that were kind of doing what my sister was similarly doing when she was at work. They would start, collecting their messages, and they would really start sharing not only the testimonies of like what it was doing for their skin, but like the way they would feel from using the soap and from getting the messages, and that little extra hint of like need that was not there in any other beauty product that kind of set us apart. And once I started, because I'm all about relationships, once I started developing relationships with our customer base, it was like, I'm like, man, this is something that's really real. And now I can't let it go, because now I'm like, okay, this is my thing now. I've built these relationships. Like,
can we get some name drops of? I've been following y'all for a minute now. I think since almost 2015. Wow. Can we get some name drops of like some celebrities that have tried the product and swear by it and stuff like that? Because I've seen them, but
I was going to get to that part. So the way what kind of put us, I guess, on the map, or what kind of really started people really seeing who we are is as we sent out some soap to Super, and Super said she is an amazing boss and influencer out of New Orleans, Louisiana.
Yes.
And she is the CEO of the Crayon Case, and she's also a good friend of mine now. We sent some soap out to her, and I think she was putting something out about, it was actually a storm or something that happened in Louisiana. And we would do that all the time, like send soap bars out when there would be storms and when there would be natural disasters. And we would do that. And this is when we were still small, still in the living room, in the garage. And so she was trying to do something for people in Louisiana. And I said, hey, I know you were, she was asking about business in Louisiana. I'm like, I know you were talking about business in Louisiana. We're here in California, but I wanted to just see if we could send you some anyways. And she was like, oh, sure. So we sent it. And she actually didn't use it for a while. And one of her friends that was actually her cleaning lady at the time put the bar of soap in her bathroom. And she didn't even really know it was there. She ended up using the bar of soap, and she loved it. And she made this video, which is like so probably one of the best videos on the internet. I feel like on Mark Zuckerberg's metaverse. I feel like it's one of the best videos on the internet. But she started talking about how much she loved the soap, how it made her skin feel. Yes. And after that, so many people, she brought so much awareness, social awareness to our business online. And from there, that kind of gave me the motivation, like, okay, this is really a thing. This could really be a real thing. And so we just kind of kept going hard from there. And I ended up developing a relationship with Super, and that's really what showed me like the business is all about relationships. So when I started working with influencers and started working with people that were sharing and promoting our brand, it was never really about promo. It was never really about just getting something out of them. It always became like a mutual relationship. Like, even though we don't have a lot of followers, you know, what can we do to support you? So, you know, we all started flying out to her events, and we really built like a relationship. And that's kind of like the motto of what we've done with not only our customers, but influencers that we work with. So I think that's really an important takeaway, because so many people that use influencers, or so many people that want to work with influencers, they're always in it for, okay, what can I get out of it? Let me hurry up and get some sales, instead of really trying to build genuine relationships with people. So Supa is she is one of our first influencers who has used the soap. Megan Good has used the soap. Tashina Arnold has used the soap. There's so many beauty influencers online that love and live by Soapy Faith. Last year we did the Grammys for 2021, so we were one of the premier guests in the Grammys. We've done the American Music Awards. We've done so many award shows. We have served over 100,000 customers. We have over 4,500 reviews online with a 99.5 star rating.
Wow.
We were rated number 10 in the top 100 businesses in the category of beauty on Etsy.com.
Wow.
So that's kind of what we've done so far, but
and it all started on the street corner.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I stood on the street.
Yeah.
I stood on the street corner.
20 years later.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, congratulations.
Wow,
y'all.
thank you.
And
Thank you, Kenya.
at least the last time I checked, y'all are up to what, 60,000, 70,000 followers?
Almost 70,000.
yeah,
Almost 70,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
70,000 followers.
Wow.
We currently, our main website is on Etsy.com. We're actually working on a big relaunch. So we're launching our official.com for www.soapyfaith.com, which will be launching in 2022.
Yay.
It's a long time coming.
Exactly. So we're doing a major brand refresh. And so for the first, I would say for the past 5 or 6 years that we've been in business, we've really been grinding it out, really trying to build our foundation of our customer base. I think especially in the skincare world, in the beauty business, and the product-based business, so many people are, like my sister said, either worried about trying to sell a million different products, or worried about the money, or worried about the numbers, that they forget about the customer and making sure that they're creating a quality product and that they are experts in their area. So like my sisters just talked about, their long journey prior to even developing Soapy Faith was really becoming experts in not only creating, but really formulation. You know, we actually have a good friend of mine who is actually our chemist for Soapy Faith. And so he's actually broken it down and broke down all the fatty acids and broke down why Soapy Faith is so beneficial. But it's really, they were really learning the business of formulation. In this crazy way, they were learning about the industry that they were in. And in a crazy way, I was doing the same thing, right? So I was in college. I worked in manufacturing. So I knew about manufacturing a product. I learned about the business of logistics, the business of buying, procurement, shipping, receiving. And then I came home and learned about the business of sales and contracts and what it's like working with a small business and how you talk to them, what it's like working with a major corporation. So really, people, you know, when we become entrepreneurs, people get so worried about like hurrying up and trying to make some money. And really, we've been
well, that's how we're programmed to think. You know what I'm saying? We see the quick results on social media. We've seen people driving, driving the Lamborghinis and
the material.
the before and after, but they didn't tell you the 5-year journey, how they got to the after or the now. And, you know, everybody's just excited and they get fired up, but they don't understand the process.
That's right.
Exactly.
It's no substance. Yeah, it's not like a white label kind of company where they got a product and it's like, oh, we're gonna throw this Soapy Faith thing on here,
Right.
and we're gonna go sell us some soap.
Right.
You don't naturally just shine like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Not only, I think the good thing was that I think what really sets us apart. I feel like we are like I would say we're almost like the Impossible Burger of like beauty and skincare, because so many people, especially people of color, we love to smell good, we love to feel good. Like, it's cool, you know, if we you know, if the natural product has all the clean and ingredients that are healthy for us, right? But we love to smell amazing, we love to feel good. So what's really gonna make us want to use it? You know, it's hard to stay dedicated to those products that might be good for us, but don't necessarily make us feel good, especially when we're in that bath and shower and self-care experience. So Soapy Faith is definitely a blend of both. It is all of the ingredients are extremely gentle on skin. So not only can you feel amazing, it has a rich lather, it makes you smell good, but it also is super gentle and extremely hydrating.
Yes. I was going to say, I know this was going to be a 2-part episode when I called him into the studio. I was about to say, this is almost a 3-part episode. But can you tell us real quick, because we're getting close to the end of the show, can you tell us, you know, what's coming up? Like, what's the future in the next 5 years for Soapy Faith? Like, what do you see in business?
Yeah.
I know that's a lot to sum up in a couple minutes. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
There we go. You heard it here first.
Okay.
All right.
Who wants to address that one? I know.
Oh, well, anything is possible.
Yeah, that's why you're on this.
Sound like a maybe.
Yeah. I was going to say what's coming up next is that, like my sister said, we are in the process of a relaunch. And we actually started this relaunch at the beginning of the pandemic. And we were looking like, okay, should we keep going? You know, what should we do? Because this is a lot of money that we're spending and working. And, you know, that the manufacturers and supply chain were having difficulty due to the pandemic. And so we were praying and I was like, oh, God, you know, what should we do? And God said, I never told you to stop.
Ooh.
Yep.
And so when he said that, we're like, okay. And we ran into, you know, issues. But, you know, I just say that when you're doing the right thing and you're being led by God and you're following and allowing him to lead, because God needs to be a part of your business as well. We have favor. Yeah. He has opened up so many doors, and we've gotten so much just during the pandemic. Yeah. And we are doing a relaunch. We got a new manufacturing warehouse during the pandemic. I mean, we're doing all kinds of stuff. Yeah. You know, people, God just had favor on us. So what is next to come is that we're doing the relaunch, and you'll see us in a Target real soon.
So we are launching .com, so make sure you sign up and subscribe at www.soapyfaith.com. We'll be launching in Q1 of next year, so we have a whole new, fresh new brand and packaging that will be coming. We have a big event, a big award show event that will be coming up in January, so excited about that. Wow. As well as, again, we're working on scaling in retail stores, so look for us in your favorite retail stores in the next few years. And if you are not following us and following our journey, make sure you get at us at soapyfaith.com on Instagram, Soapy Faith on Facebook, and make sure you are chatting with us and shopping with us on soapyfaith.etsy.com.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. That's absolutely incredible. Thank you, ladies, so much for
Don't
joining.
forget the Black Friday.
I was just getting ready to say, don't forget about Black Friday.
Oh,
yes. We got some good stuff out there.
Amazing, juicy stuff.
Exclusive.
We have exclusive new products. So you've already tried our products, our soap, our body scrubs, or our bath soap. Make sure you stay tuned, because we have a couple of never before seen products that are coming. So Black Friday is going to go crazy. We call it Soapy Friday, but it's going to go crazy.
Outstanding. And I'm assuming they can find more information at Instagram.
Yes, they can hit us on Instagram at Soapy_Faith, and our link is in our bio there. And I run our page still, so while you can still talk to me before we get too big.
Before you get too big. Man, y'all doing y'all thing.
That's answering us, and we're real people, so definitely.
Yes.
Questions about your skincare, body care routine, we can always walk you through those steps as well.
Yeah, y'all are definitely real people. We appreciate you blessing us with your presence here at the Anything Can Happen show.
Yes. Thank you for having us.
To be here.
Yeah. So, Brother Quizzy, I think you're going to close us out today. I'm going to let them know where they can find us and where they can subscribe and everything.
Absolutely. So you can tap in with it. Oh my goodness. You can tap in with Anything Can Happen at ach.show. That's at ach.show on Instagram. Also, tune into us live, Instagram live, every single Thursday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time. You get amazing guests like the beautiful ladies from Soapy Faith, as well as other entrepreneurs and just people making things happen out here in the Bay Area and beyond. With that being said, thank you all for tuning in, and we will catch you again next week at Anything Can Happen. Peace. That's it. You good? Boom.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Boom.
Woo! We did that.
Come on.
That was nice.
Come on.
When can we come back, y'all?
Oh, we need an episode 3. We just got.
Thank you.
Good. We it was so much that we still got to talk about.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't have any time to do it. Right.
That's why we was like, we got to do a 2-part episode. I said, I know the perfect people. I know the perfect people to do the 2-part episode.
That was actually really good.
Yeah, we didn't even go all the way.
Hey, people, Soapy Faith.
Hey, Cassidy girl.
Cassidy's on there.
Hey, Cassidy.
We got behind the scenes over here, Miss Brittney, for Facebook and YouTube and stuff like that.
Hey, we in the building.
Yeah.
Yes.
Come on. So episode 3?
Episode 3 for sure.
Yeah.
We got to take a deeper dive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Man, we just got them interested.
That's right.